District of Chetwynd Council meeting to order at 4:30. And I'd like the opening statement read. Have you got that, Carol?
I do. As we gather today on the traditional territory of the Treaty 8 Nations to conduct the business of the District of Chetwynd, we do so knowing that we are privileged to serve the citizens of this community, and we shall endeavor to conduct our business in their best interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Adoption of the agenda, or if there's any new business that we need to attend to today, is there any new business to add to the agenda prior to adoption? Not hearing any. Due to the COVID-19 and the provincial state of emergency, this meeting is being conducted electronically via Zoom.
Motion to receive agenda.
Second.
Second by Jocelyn Disher. Okay, Councillor Disher. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, minutes meeting, April 6th, 2021.
Motion to receive minutes.
Second.
Second, any omissions from the meeting? Anyone have any? Okay, not seeing any. All those in favor of the minutes from April 6th? Carried. Okay, I'd like to welcome our delegation for today, Kathy Peters on human trafficking. I'd like to thank you for entertaining us here in the fact of that I met I had you present to the PRRD, which was great. And I thought this was very important to myself and it's probably will be very important to the information that we get that you're going to give us as council and mayor. The importance of this is the children and the young ladies and the gender too of the males that get caught in this kind of trafficking. So Kathy, with that, I'm going to let you carry on.
Hi there. As you know, my name is Kathy Peters and I'm a former inner city high school teacher who's been raising awareness to the issue of human sex trafficking, sexual exploitation, and now child sex trafficking to the politicians, police, and public in British Columbia for the past 7 years since a federal law, the Protection of Communities and Exploited Persons Act, was passed in 2014. So the police would enforce it, so the public would understand it and be able to report it. So the law has 3 parts. Number 1, it targets the demand by targeting the buyer of sex. The predator, trafficker, pimp, facilitator, John, and buyer of sex are criminalized. Number 2, it recognizes the seller of sex as a victim, usually female, and is not criminalized. Number 3, exit strategies are put in place to assist the victim out of the sex trade. We don't do any of those things very well here in British Columbia. So the law focuses on the source of the harm, the buyers of sex and the profiteers. The clear statement from Parliament was that girls and women in Canada are not for sale, that they are full human beings with dignity and human rights. This is put out by the RCMP. BC is not enforcing this law or even raising public awareness and is far behind all provinces in Canada and is therefore the best place in Canada to buy and sell women and children for sex. Vancouver is a port city, an entry point into Canada, and along with Toronto, is a global sex tourism destination. Canada is known as a child sex tourism destination, and the public don't know that. Contributing factors are globalization, unregulated technology, no surprise, limited law enforcement, and very little prevention education, and that's what I do. The sex industry is growing fast. It is targeting our children because children is where the money is, fueled by the internet where most of the luring is taking place. Here are some stats. 13 years old is the average age of recruitment into the sex industry. In Vancouver, the Lower Mainland, it is now 10, 11, and 12 years old, and much younger for Indigenous girls. 54% in the sex trade are Indigenous. They are severely overrepresented in the sex industry. This is the most egregious form of systemic racism in the country. In Manitoba, it's 70%. In the downtown east side, it's 80%. 82% involved in prostitution. And this is a key, experience childhood sexual abuse or incest. 72% live with, now you ready for this? Complex PTSD, which is the worst form of trauma a human being can experience. 95% in prostitution want to leave. It is not a choice. It is not a job. And this book is written by one of the global experts, Dr. Janice Raymond. 96% have housing needs. Homelessness makes them vulnerable. 82% need drug rehabilitation because drugs and the sex industry go together. So if you see an opioid crisis, ask what is going on. They could be involved with the sex industry. So what can Chetwynd do? Train your business licensing managers what to look for when granting business licenses. Unregistered massage and body rub parlors. They're probably number one. Nail spas are probably number two. Holistic health centers, day spas, modeling agencies. Those are really popular in the Lower Mainland. Tattoo parlors, escort services, cheap bars and hotels, men's clubs, Airbnb, VRBO, casinos, strip clubs. Hell's Angels own all the strip clubs across Canada. They're really big into strip clubs. Organized crime clubhouses. You don't want to have any of those in your community. Truck stops and man camps. At Pipeline, LNG, Site C Dam can all be typical covers for sex trafficking and exploitation. Regarding hotels and motels in Ontario, they are best practices in Canada. In an effort to curb trafficking is mandating registration of every guest who's physically in the room, not just paying for the room. Now, I know the mayor wants a bit of a deeper dive. The best model for addressing human sex trafficking in any community is a strong, compassionate, well-supported law enforcement and an ongoing public awareness campaign. So be best friends with your law enforcement. They are my best friends. I work with them all over the province. 24 wraparound services are needed to keep people out of the sex trade. Otherwise, they will slip back into it. The key is to get people out of the sex trade so they stay out. Prostituted persons in the industry, they stay there because they do not see a way out. Drug detox is step number one, and along with that is safe housing. So you want to reduce the demand and diminish the supply. So you reduce the demand by undermining the businesses that promote the commercial sex industry. And then you diminish the supply, that's our women and girls, is done by education, public awareness, and addressing root causes such as childhood sexual abuse and again, incest. So the best book on the subject actually is this one, and it's just come out. It's Sex Industry Slavery, Protecting Canada's Youth. It's written by Dr. Robert Christmas, just published this last year, 2020. I have learned more from this book, and I've talked to Robert Christmas at length. Now, he does an in-depth on Manitoba. Manitoba is 30 years ahead of BC. We just are really not dealing with this issue. The demographic in Chetwynd shows me, anyways, that you have a very large percentage of Indigenous people, more than the average for the rest of the province. So the Indigenous women and girls are being targeted specifically and aggressively by sex traffickers from Vancouver. No Indigenous girl wants to go to Vancouver unless they are attending school or have a job. MLA Ellis Ross told me that line. Runaways are lured to Vancouver. So we want to encourage our young people not to run away. Get help. Vancouver is not a place to end up. Robert Pickton, I don't know if you've all heard that name, was a serial killer in Port Coquitlam. And he is the one example of why the public should understand in BC, the sex industry is neither glamorous or empowering. And the sex industry is trying to convince young girls it is empowering. Public awareness is desperately needed in our Indigenous communities who live with generational sexual trauma and complex PTSD. Stopping the demand for paid sex is key, But practically, your Indigenous women and girls, they've been asking for forensic nurses and nurse training, and they want rape kits in their communities. At least that way they could press charges. Violently sexual explicit images or pornography fuels the sex industry. Men and boys are the key to end exploitation. And the Vancouver Police Department gave me this line: every man and boy needs to understand there's a sacred part of the woman they have no right to. So the most common question I get from city councils is always, what are my sources and data? Canada does not collect data, so that's our big problem. But you've got my website, the Be Amazing campaign. You're going to get a lot of information on my website. And I've got 2 training videos on page 2, one for parents and one for youth. The RCMP videotape those 2 workshops. They're fantastic for training purposes. There's also this. It's called the Trafficking in Persons Report. It's put out by the US State Department. It's a report card of every country in the world on how they're doing in human trafficking. Read what it says about Canada. It is scathing, and it shows the problems we've got in Canada. And again, they do cite the Indigenous women and girls as being our most vulnerable, and we're not doing anything to protect them. The Federal Public Safety website, they have a human trafficking section. The RCMP have a human trafficking coordination center. We do have a national human trafficking hotline number, which I believe I sent a wallet card to you in your package, but there's the number. And provincially, we have Victim Link and OC Tip. And then my favorite organization is Joy Smith Foundation. She is the expert in all of Canada. She's a former MP that brought in our 3 laws on human trafficking. I volunteered for her, and I work with her over the years. She is the expert in the country. The only other question I get asked is, why is Manitoba so far ahead of BC? Well, they have Joy Smith, that member of parliament. Her son is the assistant commissioner for the RCMP, so that helps. She also has a very good working relationship with all the Indigenous chiefs. If I have an ask of the mayor, it would be, can you introduce me to all the Indigenous chiefs? I've presented to the Union of BC Indigenous Chiefs, but they're not so keen on talking about this issue. But as a mayor, I know that you are concerned about this issue. If I can reach Indigenous chiefs, they can change this right away. I want to warn you all, the sex industry has now put forward a court challenge to fully decriminalize prostitution in Canada. That would wipe out our Indigenous women and girls, completely wipe them out. So I need to present to Indigenous chiefs. You really are the voice to stop this crime. Thank you very much for presenting, and I hope there's some questions.
Go ahead, Council, if you have any questions. This is part of what's going on in BC right now. Nobody asks questions because this is a pretty hard subject to talk about. And Kathy, when I first heard it, it was pretty amazing that Canada doesn't, and BC even does less of it, right? So it was quite a factual thing that you presented to me as a person, never mind as a mayor, never mind as an Indigenous person, and never mind as a human being. To treat another human being like that was quite astonishing, and we don't do anything about it in BC. As for the introductions to Chief Napoleon and Chief Wilson, I will, if you had asked me that a little while ago, I might have had the information for you, or when you could present to them, because I do have the insight to talking with those 2 chiefs. So, and beyond that, heading to Fort St. John and those other areas where they do have a few band chiefs that I could contact too. So I will get on that one and make sure that you have some information, and hopefully you should be able to present to 1 or 2 of those chiefs in the area. But as for asking questions, who do you train? Who do you need to get the information to? And I guess that's up to us as leaders to make sure that we get it to the proper people. And Yeah, as for RCMP, yes, I agree with you on being the best friends with them. And I believe that we do have that insight as council. So if we do, put our feet to the ground here and get on with that, we can do great things. I see Councillor Bazandowski.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. It's scary for sure, very scary, and thanks for bringing it to our attention. Just two questions: is there a campaign to increase public knowledge on this matter? And my second, the last time I was at UBCM, I attended the Moose Hide campaign presentation, and I thought it was really interesting that they're taking a different approach onto it. Of course, there's a million things we have to deal with the Indigenous young women and all young women for that matter, but they're trying to educate young men into having a more positive attitude towards women. And have you found that has helped? And should us as a community start getting involved in that campaign?
I would for sure. I think it's a fantastic campaign. Now, I've reached out to them and we have not connected, which I feel dreadful about. With the Indigenous, I'll be frank, because the Indigenous women and girls let me speak this way and they want me to. Incest is a problem in Indigenous communities and it does need to be spoken to. I think the Moose Hide campaign might be speaking to that, but that is an issue. Otherwise, it's my campaign. I'm sort of it. And I've been working on this, just so you all know, for over 40 years. So I've been working on this for a long time. So I really launched my campaign just this year because I realized there needed to be some teaching on it. And that's why I wanted to let you all know about my website. Those teaching videos are invaluable. And then I've got the handouts as well that I've sent in your package, but there's more handouts. But if you could spread that far and wide, the person I have to get to is the Premier and Mike Farnworth, the Solicitor General. I've asked Mike Farnworth, he's very aware of my work. I've asked him for a meeting. His EA promised me a meeting. I don't have a meeting booked. I need to get to Mike Farnworth and I need to get to the Premier. Now, the last government, I worked really closely with the Premier and all of the cabinet, and I was presented in the BC legislature. I'm not getting very far with this current government, and that is concerning to me.
Jocelyn? Councillor Disher?
Had to hit the right bar for the mute. Thank you very much for your presentation, Kathy. The numbers are staggering, like you say. I work at the local library here, so I've got down the book titles and I'll make sure that they are in our collection. But I just have to comment, is this a difference between a female and a male Premier?
Oh, okay, that's an interesting question. Actually, Christy Clark was almost sexually assaulted when she was 13. So that might have had something to do with it. She regularly told me if she was reelected, we were going to stop this. So this is not a partisan issue it's not partisan. I just need to reach everybody, all the politicians. And as politicians, and Chetwynd, you have a voice at don't you have Site C Dam and you've got man camps close by? And I think you're one of the most beautiful communities in all of British Columbia. I just need to get to all the politicians. Bob Zimmer, I mean, I've presented to all the Conservative MP caucus. And actually, most of the MPs now I've met with, and I'm meeting with finally an NDP MP tomorrow. That's Alistair McGregor from Vancouver Island. So I'm making inroads at the federal level, certainly. Dave Lametti, I've presented to the Minister of Justice, David Lametti, that's federally. I think I scared the life out of him when I said, if you repeal that law that we've got, you wipe out the Indigenous communities. And I did that in front of all the Indigenous BC chiefs. So that was kind of timely. But I really have to reach the provincial government. I think that would be fair to say. And a female, I mean, it shouldn't make any difference. And the fact that you have this exceptional mayor that has invited me to come and present, I am very, very impressed. I need more Indigenous chiefs and leaders to speak up to this and say, this stops.
Go ahead, Councillor Wark.
Thank you. Hi, Kathy. Thanks for presenting today. I just want to comment on your phrase, sightsee man camps. They're actually people camps. They're full of women and men, a lot of them being Indigenous. Just a comment.
Mm.
Okay, any other questions for Kathy? One that I have is shock and awe. When you shock somebody to say that, oh, that's really terrible, sometimes they do like us. When I first heard you, Kathy, I was just flattened. I couldn't say nothing. I was so disturbed by the numbers itself, right? So when we get shocked and when we don't want to hear about it, that's coming from systemic stuff that happens in where we didn't want to hurt our uncle, hurt our dad, hurt our, what do you call it, from the Indigenous girls' perspective, right? Because you weren't built like that, try to hurt somebody, but yet they were hurt. So, you know, with that stuff, it's kind of to have chiefs and a board and councillors, you know, sometimes it's not the chief that runs, it's the councillors in the council, chief and council that move. So, you know, with some of that, I'll try to get as many councillors and chiefs available so that you can present. So I will push that forward and making sure that we get it out there, because we don't need to lose any of our kids to that sort of deal with sex trade. It's just not, it's just slavery.
Mhm, mhm.
Whew. Okay, anybody else? Any staff want to comment? We're all good?
Just, if I could just thank you very much for your presentation. It's very powerful and interesting, as well as relevant. Thank you.
Okay. If there isn't any more questions, I'd like to thank you, Kathy, for coming down and or showing up on Zoom. And thank you for that. And I think we got all your information. I believe we record, so we've got all that. Even if we don't have it, we will contact you for any more information. And for the chiefs, I will contact them and leave the messages, and we will hopefully move in a better direction.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome, and thank you again. This is pretty close to the way I felt when I first heard it. It was quite a disturbing part of that day, and still is today. We'll continue with the bylaws. The District Chetwynd Official Committee Planning Amendment Bylaw number 1136/2021 and the District of Chetwynd Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1137/2020 Nicholson Road are included under the reports to action portion of this agenda as items number RA1. All right, so we'll move on to committee reports. We'll start with anybody have any reports, liaison reports or any? Okay, I will read a few things from the PRRD. Right now, we had the PRRD was presented by Leonard Hebert, director, that the invasive plant program is being taken out for 2021. That's on Crown land. So they've been doing this. Invasive species plants and taking care of them on Crown land. And now the Crown says, no, we're not going to do that. And he's mentioned that whatever we've been doing the last 10, 20 years could be taken care of if we do it continuously. But he said, if we stop, this could harm us for quite a while. It could push us back 5-10 years. He says, just because we've stopped that invasive plants will just continue to prosper, and we won't have control of that. And he was pretty adamant that he's going to send a letter to the province and to the federal government, and I will give his information to Carol, and we will send our little bit of a letter to I think it is Florida, I believe, Carol, that so we will do that. And as for Chetwynd and the caribou, we went through a 101. It was just like an update for the caribou recovery program. I thought it was going to teach us something, but it was mainly just like an update. So one of the updates was that the Moberly herd, they've increased when they did start, reported that they had 16. Now they have 101. So they've increased quite a bit in the last 4 to 5 years. It was a penning and predator control. So that was fairly good. And one of the things that was asked from the region was that we wanted to have an economic recovery program or economic study done. They promised that for us years ago, and when we were asking about it, and then again this year they said we're going to do it. So we're just waiting for that one. Yeah, we all didn't hold our breaths. So with that, and I believe that was it from the PRD and Chetwynd for now. And that would be it. Anybody else for the reports? So we're good to move on. Okay, we shall move on. Anything from administration?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. So discussion items, correspondence, still information items, I1 to I14. Is there anything there that we need to pull out, councillors? Okay, not hearing any.
Motion to receive?
Second.
Second by Councillor Disher. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, reports to action. Official community plan and zoning amendment bylaw, Nicholson Road.
I'll make the recommendation
Okay,
that the District of Chetwynd Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1136, 2021 Nicholson Road be introduced and given first and second readings, and that District of Chetwynd Zoning Amendment Bylaw 1137, 2021 Nicholson Road be introduced and given first and second readings, and that a public hearing be scheduled to obtain public input on the above bylaws on May 3rd, 2021 at 4 p.m.
second.
I'll second that. I have a question.
Yes, discussion. Go ahead. Councillor, let's go.
So they're looking to take that piece of land out of Parks and Trail and put it into highway commercial, but we really don't know what it's about. Well, is that something that we find out later at a later date?
Yes, oh, sorry.
Carol?
If I could, Your Worship, to make that parcel the same zoning as the parcel right beside it where the 3-tenant commercial building is going up, just to the same property owner owns that whole strip there right up to Veterans Way. So it's just to make all of the zoning consistent so that that could be used for parking or another commercial use there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Any more discussion? Okay. On the motion, All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, carried. So May 3rd, eh? Okay, RA2, development permit number 02-2021, GDP Pitchlar Investment Group, Investment Corporation, Inc.
I would make that motion, your worship, that council authorizes issuance of a development permit number 02-2021 to GDP Pitchler Investment Corporations, Inc. for the purpose of renovation of a commercial building located at lot 1906 PRRD, accept plans 13337, 17254, and 28785, PID 008-499-128, 5116 50th Street Southwest.
I'll second that.
Okay, Council Work second. Any discussion? Laura?
I just think this is a great idea. I think it's, yeah, it's just going to be great for them.
They can definitely use the space.
Absolutely.
So can I just, what do I do, just delete those?
Who do I have on the phone, on the,
Well, I did go to.
Carol, do you have, can we hear that?
We can't really hear you, whoever's speaking on the phone. Would you be able to speak closer to the mic? No? Okay. May have just been background noise.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, carried. RA3, development permit number 04-2021, Shane Serraris.
I'll make that recommendation. The council authorize issuance of development permit number 04-2021 Shane Serraris for the purpose of construction of a commercial building located at Lot 9, District Lot 494, Peace River District Plan 24681, PID 008-171394, 4341 45th Avenue Northeast.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Wait, Councilor Weisgerber, second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, carried. RA4, 43rd Street Northeast Road Rebuild and Utilities and Contract Award.
I would make that motion, your worship, that council received, I'm sorry. The council award the 43rd Street Northeast Road Rebuild and Utilities Contract to Terrace Construction Limited, DBA DGS Astro Paving, at the bid price of $1,738,236.44 plus GST.
Second, do I hear a second? Councilor Weisgerber, second. Discussion. Councilor Weisgerber,
I'm just wondering, this project, when will this project start?
go ahead, staff.
Oh, now, if council awards this tonight, we'll be in touch with the contractor and let them know that they have been awarded the project, and then we'll get that timeline for you. But we want it to be completed by the end of fall, before snow flies.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Okay,
Actually, sorry, I did have one other
Yes, go ahead.
comment. I just had someone ask me, because I found out about this on Saturday night, actually, that this road was getting all ripped up, and they were concerned that they're not going to have their they were told that they wouldn't be able to park in their driveway. And they said, and they were told probably 2 months. So I was just wondering, I was just surprised that, so did the letters get sent out to these people already that this project is happening?
Well,
Staff?
they know about it because we've been doing some design work and surveying and that sort of thing. But we will get back to them with more details after we've talked to the contractor.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, and we haven't made a decision yet, so, you know, prior to that, we probably don't have any legal information until we do vote on it here. Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Passes. Reports for information. March account payable checks list.
Motion to receive for information?
Second,
Okay, Counselor Bezendowski seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Didn't see any new business. Is there anybody from the public that have questions on tonight's meeting? Okay, not hearing any. Adjournment. Clay, Bezendowski, Counselor. Okay, Counselor Galbraith, second. Okay, thank you.
Good night, all.
good night, everybody.